Thank you for joining us, and it's time for our news bulletin right here on Luntha Television. And you're with me, Patrick Pupa, but first, the headlines. Pope Leo the 14th visit brings message of hope to struggling community. Minister of Health to enforce sanitation order as President Mutharika mandates hygiene facilities nationwide. NIF pursues billions in unpaid loans. In international news, alleged support to M23 rebels in DR Congo sparks action. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. More than 4 decades had gone by since a pope last set foot in El Quaticiolo, a district of Rome. On the second Sunday of Lent, Pope Leo the 14th broke that long absence by visiting the area and presiding over Mass at the parish of the Ascension of our Lord Jesus Christ. We have a Vatican News report read by Fales Kizombe.
During his homily, the Pope reflected on a fundamental aspect of human nature. He portrayed Peter as the voice of the old world actions to pause events and keep them under control, much like the reluctance to awaken from a comforting dream. Yet he stressed this moment was not about clinging to illusions, but about stepping into a new reality that represents the true destination of the Christian journey. Quaticiolo remains a community burdened by serious challenges, particularly drug trafficking. The Dionian fathers who oversee the parish have remained steadfast in confronting these problems. Pope Leo commended their perseverance and urged them to remain firm in their commitment to transforming the neighborhood. He also acknowledged the discouragement that can arise when efforts seem fruitless and surrounding conditions fail to improve. In such moments, doubt and loss of purpose can easily take hold. The Pope
We apologize for that poor report. Our Hilton Healthcare Network Project Coordinator, Sister Teresa Mlenga, has reaffirmed the project's commitment to providing sustained healthcare services to communities in Mchinji with a pledge to work alongside residents for at least 3 years. Sister Mlenga made the commitment during the first health camp conducted by the Sisters of Charity of Ottawa at Traditional Authority Zulu in Mchinji as a new focal coordinator under the network. She expressed satisfaction with the turnout at the camp, describing it as an encouraging despite several other activities taking place in the area. Charity Chiranga with the details.
In an interview, Aurum Healthcare Network Project Coordinator Sister Teresa Mulenga said the strong response from the catchment area demonstrates the community's need for accessible health services and affirmed that the network is dedicated to ensuring lasting impact. Sister Mulenga emphasized that the Hilton Healthcare Network intends to move with the people for a period of not less than 3 years in its initial phase, with the possibility of extending services thereafter. She stressed that the goal is to ensure sustainability, noting that the project does not want to introduce services that start and stop abruptly, but rather establish long-term, reliable healthcare support systems.
The healthcare network, we are very much committed. Our intention is that we move with the people and the sisters in particular for a period of not less than 3 years for a beginning, and then from there we're going to extend the services. But we really want to make sure that these services don't just start and stop. We want the services to be sustainable. We'll be looking at other options in which we can make this activity a sustainable activity.
Sisters of Charity of Ottawa Focal Project Coordinator Sister Alexina Male described the first medical camp as fulfilling, saying it was a vision she had long hoped to see implemented in the area.
I find it very interesting and encouraging, and I'm very happy that what I was trying to foresee, that one day we will implement this project, it has been fulfilled.
One of the beneficiaries, William Gaston, expressed gratitude for the initiative, saying long distances to hospitals often worsen patients' condition due to transportation challenges. He said some people risk losing their lives before reaching faraway health facilities, making the outreach services timely and life-saving. Launched in 2024, the Aurum Hilton Healthcare Network project is a collaborative effort among 7 congregations of religious sisters aimed at delivering essential healthcare services to underserved communities. The participating congregations include the Teresian Sisters, Sisters of the Daughters of Wisdom, Sisters of Our Lady, Sisters of the Holy Rosary, Poverello Sisters, Servants of the Blessed Virgin Mary Sisters, and the Sisters of Charity of Ottawa, SCORE. The Sisters of the Charity of Ottawa have recently joined the initiative, and their first medical camp in Ichinji signals the beginning of a sustained effort to strengthen healthcare access in the district.
The Minister of Health says it will work with local councils to inspect public places and ensure proper sanitation and hygiene facilities are in place. Through an executive order, President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika has mandated the provision and maintenance in hygiene facilities in all public spaces, schools and workplaces across the country. Ministry spokesperson Adrian Chikumbe said the order strengthens the ministry's mandate to enforce hygiene standards and describe it as a key measure to improve public health outcomes. Tandwem Zumara reports.
The executive order requires that all public spaces, including markets, bus depots, car parks, recreational centers and venues for public gatherings, provide and maintain adequate waste disposal facilities. It also extends to all schools and workplaces, public or private, requiring proper waste management within and around their premises. Minister of Health spokesperson Adrian Chikumbe noted that the directive comes at a time when several districts are battling cholera outbreaks. He said that enforcement of sanitation standards will help curb waterborne diseases linked to inadequate hygiene. He has since urged the public to adopt sanitation and hygiene as a permanent lifestyle rather than a temporary measure during outbreaks.
So we are excited with the executive order because it's going to bring back what we're supposed to be doing in the first place. So we're going to work with councils to implement the measures that have been in the
Health expert George Joby backed the executive order, emphasizing that rule change requires enforcement, proper infrastructure, and community engagement, particularly to protect poor and rural communities from preventable diseases caused by poor waste management.
This is very important because the good sanitation and the good waste management is a backbone to public health.
Authorities say inspections will begin immediately with warnings and possible sanctions for facilities that fail to meet the required standards. For Luntha News, this is Tandiwe Mzumara.
The National Economic Empowerment Fund (NEF) says it is intensifying efforts to recover billions of kwacha in outstanding loans, including balances left by borrowers who died before completing repayment. NEF has since engaged supporters in forced pledged collateral and activated insurance policies to safeguard the public funds. Emmanuel Chocha with the details.
In an interview with Luntha, NEF spokesperson Elizabeth Mapemba said the institution is following all legal and procedural measures to ensure loan service recovery are handled in accordance with the law. She explained that in cases where borrowers die while still servicing their loan, the fund relies on insurance arrangements to recover outstanding balances. Mapemba disclosed that of the 335 billion kwacha disbursed to beneficiaries between 2021 and 2025, approximately 240 billion remains unpaid.
All our loans have credit life insurance during the repayment period, such that if a borrower dies whilst the loan is being repaid properly and it's within its repayment period, the insurance company clears the remaining balance. That means as NEF, we claim the loan balance from the insurance company that provides the life insurance cover. Whilst if the borrower dies after missing payments and the loan is in arrears, we recover the loan from the guarantor and from any assets that were pledged as collateral.
Efforts to seek comment from governance and transparency expert at the Center for Social Accountability and Transparency, CSIT, Willie Kambwandira, proved unsuccessful as he did not respond to phone calls. For Luntha News, this is Emmanuel Chiwocha.
As Malawi commemorates Mother's Day, various views are emerging on whether citizens are fully enjoying the political, human rights, and educational freedoms won through the sacrifices of the country's fallen heroes. While the nation has made progress, experts warn that the journey towards fully realized freedoms remains ongoing. Costas Kamtemeni has compiled this report.
Michael Kaiyata, chairperson of the Human Rights Defenders Coalition, acknowledged significant strides, including the adoption of the progressive constitution, the embrace of multi-party democracy, and the establishment of institutions to safeguard human rights. However, he emphasized that the true measure of freedom lies not in laws on paper, but in the practical enjoyment of rights by citizens.
The deeper question remains that much as we have these freedoms on paper, in reality, people enjoying them, you find that the answer to that question is not very encouraging. Much as we have a very progressive constitution that guarantees the rights of every Malawian, including the right to life, the right to dignity.
On education, expert Benedicto Kondowe highlighted persistent gaps in access and quality. He said thousands of learners still study in overcrowded classrooms or open-air spaces, while access to secondary and university education remains limited for many, falling short of the aspirations of those who fought for liberation.
We still have many Malawians who are unable to access education. And these are not the aspirations that those that fought and we remember on the Mother's Day had wanted. The liberation, the sacrifices, and the blood that they shed was that one day this country must stand up and guarantee the rights and freedoms of all Malawians.
Political analyst George Piri stressed that the freedom earned through sacrifice is yet to be fully realized. He urged current leaders to remember that the position they hold today were made possible by the courage and blood of those who fought for justice and democratic rights.
the Mother's Day is commemorated because Malawians died for the freedom that we have in this country. And it is important to understand that whoever comes into office is supposed to understand that those who died for the freedom.
Historically, 61 Malawians were killed by the British Army in 1959 while fighting for independence, which the country achieved 4 years later in 1963. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, this is Constance Kamteme.
In case you are just joining us, remember you are watching News Bulletin coming to you from Luntha Television, and you're with me, Patrick Pooper. But before we proceed, top stories once again. Pope Leo the 14th visit brings message of hope to struggling community. Minister of Health to enforce sanitation order as President Mutharika mandates hygiene facilities nationwide. NIF pursues billions in unpaid loans. In international news, alleged support to M23 rebels in DR Congo sparks action. The Civil Society Network on Climate Change SUSANEC National Coordinator Julius Ngoma has called for stronger enforcement of environmental laws and increased government funding to protect biodiversity, warning that Malawi risks losing vital medicine and aromatic plants due to weak implementation of existing policies. The call comes as Malawi joins the global community in commemorating World Wildlife Day 2026 under the theme Promoting Medicine and Aromatic Plants for Healthy Heritage and Livelihoods. Judith Ogan has filed a report read by Gift Kalonga.
Ngoma said Malawi has adequate policies and laws aimed at protecting biodiversity and wildlife, but enforcement remains a major challenge. He explained that medicinal and aromatic plants are critical for healthy care, preserving cultural heritage, sustaining rural economies, and strengthening community resilience, particularly in communities that rely on natural resources for survival. Ngoma emphasized that communities must actively participate in sustainable harvesting by planting trees, restoring degraded ecosystems, and safeguarding indigenous species. He noted that protecting forests, wetlands, and other ecosystems is key to maintaining biodiversity and securing long-term healthy and economic benefits. He acknowledged that several initiatives have been introduced to promote biodiversity protection, but said they remain insufficient without serious commitment to enforcement. He urged the government to allocate more resources to the environmental sector to strengthening law enforcement, support community-based conservation, and ensure the country fully benefits from its biodiversity and wildlife.
On the need and the importance of medicinal and aromatic plants, especially the vital role that they play in supporting healthcare systems, preserving cultural heritage, sustaining love for life, economies and livelihoods, and strengthening community resilience, particularly for communities in Malawi.
Meanwhile, SUSANEC called on communities, development partners, and the private sector to support ecosystem restoration initiatives and prioritize sustainable management of medicinal and aromatic plants to safeguard livelihoods and protect Malawi's natural heritage.
Citizens for Justice and Equity, in collaboration with the Malawi Black Economic Empowerment Movement, has called on the National Bank of Malawi to compensate customers of unfair and erroneous charges incurred on POS transactions between February 23 and 25, 2026. The two organizations accused the bank of failing to fully take responsibility despite issuing a delayed public apology. Gift Kalonga reports.
CJ Executive Director Agabe Kombe described the charges as unacceptable, noting that customers were subjected to financial penalties for nearly 3 days before the bank publicly addressed the matter. He said the delay reflects a lack of agency in handling issues that directly affect people's livelihoods. Kombe insisted that the bank must go beyond an apology and fully compensate all affected customers for the inconvenience and financial losses they suffered. He argued that it is unjust for customers to bear the brunt of minor errors while the bank avoids accountability. He also called on regulatory bodies, including the Reserve Bank of Malawi, to investigate the matter thoroughly and ensure stronger oversight of commercial banks. Kombe emphasized that financial institutions must uphold accountability and transparency to protect Malawians from recurring unjust charges.
National Bank should acknowledge their error by taking responsibility and consider to compensate the customers for all the damages that they went through due to the inconveniences caused by their own erroneous system.
Meanwhile, the group has given the National Bank of Malawi 14 days to compensate their affected customers, warning that failure to comply will force them to take further action. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, this is Gift Kalonga.
The Malawi Council for Disability Affairs Makoda says it is intensifying efforts to uplift women and youth with disabilities by forging strategic partnership with key organizations and stakeholders across the country. Makoda spokesperson Harriet Kachimanga said the council is in the final stages of discussions with prospective partners and will soon publicly announce the institutions involved, along with details on how the collaborations will be implemented. She noted that the initiative aligns with Malawi Vision 2063, the country's long-term development blueprint to guide national transformation. Alison Banda has filed this report.
Kachimanga explained that partnerships are aimed at advancing disability rights, promoting inclusion and driving socio-economic empowerment for women, children, and young people with disabilities. Through joint programming, Makoda intends to expand access to education, vocation and skills training, employment opportunities, and social support services for people with disabilities. Kachimanga further said collaborations will enhance advocacy efforts, strengthening coordinations among stakeholders, and ensure that disability issues remain central in both public and private sector planning and policy implementation. She added that Makoda will in due course release a comprehensive roadmap outlining the partnership institutions and implementation strategies to guide the joint initiatives with a clear focus on delivering measurable nationwide impact.
However, let me emphasize that these projects are focusing mainly on children, women, and youth with disabilities. When it comes to the inclusion in the general public, we would like to urge the public to ensure that inclusion is practiced.
Meanwhile, Kachimanga has appealed to the general public, employers, and institutions to fairly consider qualified persons with disabilities when offering opportunities, stressing that disability does not mean inability. She underscored the need to treat persons with disabilities with dignity and respect, and to create inclusive environments that enables them to participate fully and meaningfully in national development.
And finally, in international news, the United States has placed sanctions on the Rwandan military and 4 senior officers, alleging that they are contributing to instability in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The measures come despite U.S.-mediated peace agreement signed in December by Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo to end the conflict. We have a BBC News report read by Fales Kizombe.
Washington has sanctioned Rwanda's army and top commanders, accusing them of backing the M23 rebel group and sabotaging peace efforts in eastern DR Congo. Rwanda has rejected the claims, insisting its military actions are purely defensive. U.S. authorities have imposed penalties on Rwanda's defense forces and 4 high-ranking officials, claiming they are responsible for sustaining violence in eastern DR Congo by supporting M23 rebels despite a recent peace accord. The U.S. Treasury has accused the Rwanda Defense Force of undermining a December peace deal by aiding the M23 insurgents, leading to sanctions against the army and several senior commanders. Kigali has dismissed the accusations as biased and misleading. Sanctions announced by the United States target Rwanda's military leadership, whom officials say provided weapons, training, and direct support to the M23 rebels operating in eastern DR Congo, worsening an already fragile security situation. Despite a U.S. brokered agreement aimed at restoring peace, the United States says Rwanda's army continued combat operations in eastern DR Congo alongside the M23 rebels, prompting financial and diplomatic sanctions. The U.S. government has frozen assets and restricted financial dealings with Rwanda's defense forces and 4 senior officers, accusing them of enabling rebel advances that threaten to expand the conflict into a regional war. Rwanda has strongly denied U.S. allegations that its forces supported M23 fighters, arguing instead that DR Congo violated ceasefire terms and that Rwanda's military presence is necessary for national security. According to U.S. officials, M23 rebels carried out territorial gains with the direct assistance from Rwandan troops, including advanced military equipment, leading Washington to demand the immediate withdrawal of Rwanda forces from DR Congo. The Congolese government welcomed the U.S. sanctions as a show of support for its sovereignty, while Rwanda condemned the action as unfair. The Trump administration warned it would use all available measures to ensure both countries honor their peace commitments.
And that concludes our news bulletin right here on Luntha Television. But before I go, a recap of our top stories. Pope Leo XIV visit brings message of hope to struggling community. Minister of Health to enforce sanitation order as President Mutharika mandates hygiene facilities nationwide. NIF pursues billions in unpaid loans. In international news, alleged support to M23 rebels in DR Congo sparks action. Thank you for staying with us. We appreciate your company for watching our news bulletin. And this has been Patrick Popper, and I wish you a lovely time, and bye for now.
Selfish chatter.